might be thinking, that's not how a guitar sounds. Well, you're absolutely right. What I'm using is a pitch to MIDI converter. So basically I'm going from the guitar's pickups here into the 1/4 inch jack here, and it's changing the pitch into MIDI information. MIDI's been around since 1982, 1983. This particular pitch to MIDI converter is a Sonuus G2M universal MIDI converter, and it seems to work pretty well, especially on the higher notes. It tracks really well. The bass notes, it's not quite as fast. What it recommends if you want to play some bass notes is you take it up an octave or two and then just transpose it down in a sequencer if you're trying to use this for sequencing. But of course, if you're using it for live playing, it's kind of the limitations of that. So I can pick here's an organ sound here. And you notice it bends. If I change it to the chromatic side, see how it sounds. And I put this on here. That's more like how a guitar bends, kind of like a pitch bend on a regular thing. Here's a guitar. Let's see how an overture guitar sounds. So the one thing that's a little bit different on this, you can only play one note at a time, and you have to play the note and go to another note. I can't play 2 notes at the same time. So if I'm trying to do some blues, I have to do it like this. So that is a little bit something you have to kind of understand what you can do. There is a through on here, so I can hook it back into another amp and just use the natural sound from the guitar as well. But I got bass sounds, basically anything. Here's a string ensemble. Let's see how that sounds. So if you're playing a regular guitar chord, it's getting the bass note, or if I go from up top. So I can arpeggiate. So it takes a little time to kind of play it out. But it is actually a pitch to MIDI converter, which means that I can unplug my guitar, plug a microphone into the pitch to MIDI converter, and that's right, I can use my voice. Da, da, da. And so, let's see, here's a trumpet sound. Da, ba, ba, da, ba, 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 da, ba, ba, ba. So you could sing into your sequencer if you didn't have an instrument, as long as you have a microphone and you're using a pitch to MIDI converter. Da, da. And so here's a flute. Da, da. And let's say for some reason I put on a synthesized sound. Let's see. So again, it's converting the pitch into MIDI information and playing through a sound module, which is going through my iPad. And I'm playing through an amp right now, so we need a little more volume. And if I want to, I could break out a little instrument called a trumpet. And I am not a master trumpet player by any means at all. Put the microphone in front of it. So basically anything that makes sound and you hook a microphone up to it is a pitch to MIDI converter. However, I'm probably going to use it mainly for guitar purposes. So I am really quite pleased with this pitch to MIDI converter. I have wanted one of these things for years, and they just haven't been that accurate. The higher range they seem to work. It works a little bit better, but finally, in 2016, you can have a pitch to MIDI converter. They had these out in the 90s and 2000s, and they just weren't very accurate. They weren't really worth a whole lot. But you can see there with the trumpet, even my horrible trumpet skills, I got to play a synthesizer with it, and the house would hear potentially the MIDI stuff I'm playing on it, and no one would hear my trumpet sound or my voice. I can go on there. So I can see for some live performances, there's a lot of really cool things you can do with this pitch to MIDI converter. So it runs on a AA battery, and then and basically the ports, it's MIDI out, going to MIDI in. I'm just using the MIDI interface into my iPad right here. But anything that has MIDI on it, that's a sound module or drum machine. If I want to, I could sing some drums if I wanted to, or I could have the trumpet play some drums. So there's a lot of things you can do for live performances with this pitch to MIDI converter. And again, on the guitar, in the higher range, it seems to track really, really, really well. On the lower range, it's not quite as fast, but I think it is usable for certain things for sure. And so I really like this live. You have Garageband. I believe this was a free program I got right here. It's a Yamaha synthesizer, and that basically works via MIDI as well. So you can go out and do some really cool things. I highly recommend you play around, and if you're into MIDI like I am, you can do a lot of really cool stuff just for fun. Here's a drum kit, and let me see if I can get a pitch and actually sing it into it. And then that way I can actually sing some drums in. Too much fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this pitch to MIDI converter. And if you're into MIDI, if you're into electronics as much as I am, I think you're going to love playing around with this. Let's see. Let me put it on. I guess you can practice your scat singing a little bit. I really am digging this. So I highly recommend this Sonuus G2M universal MIDI converter. It's a pitch to MIDI converter. You're going to have a lot of fun with this thing, and if you're into MIDI, it's like as much as I am, you're going to have a lot of fun. And some traditional instruments like trumpet, violin, clarinet, flute, saxophone, whatever, you can actually kind of add MIDI to your repertoire or your live set if you want to as well, and they have an orchestra with you. Rock and roll, everybody, and of course, it does compute.